tonight we're really going to kick off and start talking about the importance of our brand, and also share a little bit about the ability to customize your own logos in Rotary. One of the things I do want to share with everyone is that I did receive a message about a month ago from Rotary International, and they did let us know that the board of directors for this year, 1920, has requested that all districts comply with Rotary visual brand standards by the 30th of June. And that is on your district websites. They will be recognizing at an upcoming board meeting those districts that are brand compliant. So you may want to check your district website before the 30th to see if you are brand compliant. And so just wanted to kind of put that little plug in. So this evening, I have a co-presenter with me. I would like to introduce Liz Smith-Yates. Liz was a district governor with me in 2014-15. She is from Michigan. She's actually not this past year. Yes, she's where the thumb is in Michigan. This past year, not this year, but the previous years, her and I were public image coordinators in my old parent zone. And so Liz and I have done quite a few presentations together and thought that this might be a fun way to share with all of you some of the presentations that we've been doing on branding over the years. And this one is still very relevant. We've updated the information. And so with that, I would like to introduce, I think Liz is going to kind of talk the first little part here, and then I will jump in. And I believe Liz is going to share her screen as well.
So thanks, and hi everybody, and good evening. And as Kathy said, I also was a Rotary Public Image Coordinator. I actually concluded my term at the end of the prior Rotary year, but I remain very engaged in branding. You know, the job of patrolling the internet is exhausting, so I've been trying to help folks as possible. So I'm going to share my screen. Host has disabled attendee screen sharing, Kathy.
Let me make sure that I can allow you to share. I am sorry.
We should have practiced.
You should be able to now.
Okay, here we go. And I will choose this window to share, and then we have to play. So a little play on words to start with. Brand matters. These are brand matters. And this is really my thesis. I would like us by the end to agree that this stuff matters. And as Kathy said, the board of directors is very engaged in wanting everybody to get over the finish line. And in truth, it's been a while. It's been 5 or 6 or more years since we made this change, and it's certainly a reasonable expectation that folks can catch up on that and do that. Now, there was some initial, I want to give you a little bit of history. There was some initial thoughts at the beginning, like, how can we possibly change our brand? Nobody ever does that. That's a ridiculous thing to do. And so I got this slide from Bob Kripke, who is the chief historian from the Ford Motor Company. And this is the evolution of the Ford brand. So, you know, if you looked at the Ford Blue Oval today, you would think, well, of course they've never changed that. But in fact, over time, it has changed quite a bit. It kind of took on its current feel around 1912. 1957, something a little strange happened with the oval. It got kind of pointy and weird, but they found their circle. They found their oval again in 1976, and today it is that brand. But there's never any question, as you would look at it, as to what that is. Here's the evolution of the Shell brand. In 1909, it was a seashell, and it was black and white, because those are the colors they kind of had to work with to print. 1948, they put the word in. In 1955, they made it red. They put a box around it. They took the box and the word out. They put the word back in without the box. I think today we're back to just the shell without the word. I have to check all my corner gas stations. But as you look at this, there's never really any question that if you stop where you see the sign, you're going to get gasoline and snacks. Pepsi. Pepsi is my favorite story because if you look at the top line here, what does that look like? Somebody unmute and shout out. What does that look like on that top line?
Coca-Cola.
There you go. Yes, it looks like Coca-Cola. Not an accident, because in 1898, the people looked out the window and saw the Coca-Cola across the street and said, wow, those people are doing a pretty good business. So maybe if we sell stuff and we make our stuff look like their stuff, maybe people will buy our stuff. So it was a very deliberate move on their part. Now, over time, Pepsi found their own identity. They finally found a different typeface in 1962. And then they have maneuvered with the red, white, and blue and the words. They, in 1991, they put a little sheer on it, put a little angle on it. And now today, coming down to just the circle in some instances. So they really achieve that recognizability. I am contractually obligated as a beta tester for the Apple Computer Company in 1983 to show you this. Most folks haven't seen the Apple Computer Company logo, the original in 1976. That is Sir Isaac Newton sitting under an apple tree. If you're an Apple person, we don't talk too much about Newton. But so here we are today with the nice gray, shiny apple. So Rotary had its own evolution. Folks felt very angry that things might be changing, but in fact, things have been changing since the very beginning. In 1905, it was a wagon wheel. Very appropriate if you looked out the window in Chicago in 1905. In 1906, they felt like they put a little dust around it. They wanted to stir up a little action. They wanted to put some motion into it. In 1910 was the last year we were the National Association of Rotary Clubs. Why? What happened in 1910?
We added a club in Canada.
Excellent. And the town would be?
Winnipeg.
Excellent. Kathy, you're a ringer in this story. She knows the story, people. 1912, it started to look more like we were used to. And in 1924, the first engineer joined Rotary because you see the addition of the keyway, that little bump in the center of the circle, because a real gear without the keyway won't turn. It won't drive a shaft. It'll just spin loosely on the shaft and not create any energy. So here we are. What did we do? Well, we brought out our first name. We want people to know us by our first names. So we brought out Rotary. And we took the wheel and we made it more of a solid, more of a, something a little more contemporary in its look and feel. This was actually one of the versions of the Rotary wheel that was out there. It was probably the least used one. The first yellow, they didn't get it right. The first yellow was a little bit more sunshiny and a little harder to see. This one has a little bit more amber to it, a little bit more gold to it. So that's the journey and the why of it. Because if you Google the Rotary logo, anybody done that? It's a horror. This is an example. This is just 10 examples of what you might get when you Google the Rotary logo. 3 of these have never been right, ever, since 1905. Just no. So we certainly had a problem and needed to get streamlined. So we came to this and this. What was originally called the digital wheel, now called the simplified wheel, for use in those instances where having the words doesn't work because it's too small or too difficult. For example, in embroidery, this works much better for embroidery. You'll notice if I toggle between the two that it's not the same image, and you can compare them both on the screen because I have it in the footer. It's not just the rotary wheel with the words taken out. It is a different and more simplified version. It's actually my personal favorite. So how do we do, how do we help people? How do we teach them and guide them as to how to use these tools? Well, we wrote a book about it, Tell Rotary Story. And I hope that you've all seen that book by now. It's 50 plus pages of glorious
The new version
color.
is only 43.
Oh no! Oh no! It must have. There must be a supplement there somewhere. And we came up with some colors. We said, okay, here's some colors for you. Here's our main colors. Here's some secondary colors. Here's some pastels. Here's some neutrals. This is bananas, right? These tiny little numbers are, telling people like me how to make these colors because we're crazy and we like these tiny little numbers. This is bananas, right? Who in the world does this? Well, this is my U of M. So here's the University of Michigan and my alma mater. They did this, and they have some secondary colors and some don'ts, some do's and some don'ts. I like the upper right-hand corner here that says, don't use purple because we're going to look like Northwestern. Here's Northwestern. At Northwestern, you can have any color you want as long as it's purple. This is actually a custom purple. Northwestern made up their own purple. So good on them. University of Nebraska. Kathy and I picked this up today. Anybody hoping there might be somebody with us from Nebraska today? Here's University of Nebraska. They have their logo. They have their colors.
Go Cornhuskers.
Excellent. Excellent. I like to read these things because there's always some notes, some feel. It teaches you about the culture of the organization. Red is more than just our brand. Its design asserts its dominance without breaking a sweat. That's a lot to put on a red, right? And the cream is calm and warm, over which the scarlet shouts. It's in the fight songs, the scarlet and cream, although apparently the Dear Old Nebraska U song mentions no other color than blue. So there's always history in these style sheets. Again, Nebraska says, here's what not to do. Don't squish it. Don't recreate it. Hold that thought in the upper right-hand corner. Don't recreate the icon. We're going to come back to that idea. So some ways not to do things. Iowa, Kathy and I pulled this one out together today too. And to my surprise and delight, this is the first one I've ever seen that has a set of its own icons. And this is my favorite part, patterns. They've come up with their own patterns. And apparently the community one, I don't know the town where Iowa is, but these images are images from the town. So
From Iowa City, yes.
Okay, yeah, Iowa City, thank you. So Penn State is a favorite. I like this. Organization allow a multitude of colors. They didn't pick any secondary colors. With these folks, we are dark blue.
And sometimes light blue.
But mostly dark blue. Ohio State, the Ohio State. This one's hard. I did go to Columbus. I had to put this slide in. Otherwise, I'd take my life in my hands if I was going to present them with the Wolverines to start. So we finished.
Go Buckeyes.
We bring in the scarlet and the gray. Now, I'm going to make this little box for you on the right-hand side a little bigger. I just love this. Blue should never be visually dominant. A little sensitivity there. Color plays an active role, this also from Ohio State, in people's lives. It triggers emotions. I tell you all of this. I tell you these stories to tell you and to demonstrate that people think about this stuff. They think long and hard about what color and look and design conveys. Color can influence decisions and behaviors. So Rotary, using all of those skills, we knew our colors were royal blue and gold, but we also put together a palette of things that would be complementary. Now, as a designer, I gotta tell you, this is the best gift in the world. There are a lot of colors to choose from, and I'm not always good at picking them. These folks pick them for me. If I use these and I use them together, it's always gonna look like Rotary, and it's always gonna look like it goes together. We also picked fonts for the brand. Our main two fonts are Frutiger Light Standard and Sentinel. These are not free fonts, and there was some conversation about this early on. When you're an organization in 200 countries at 1.2 million members, you just gotta buy your stuff. You can't use the free stuff. You gotta buy your stuff, so we do. Frutiger is actually one of the top 5 sans serif fonts in the world. It's the font of the euro. It is all over the place, and every printer you will ever meet will have the full assortment of Frutiger. Sentinel's a little harder to come by, it's expensive, but Georgia is a lovely substitute for Sentinel and really complements Frutiger nicely. If you don't come up with Frutiger, Arial is nearly there. I've put a little X, this is a personal opinion, on Open Sans, just because there's a couple letters that look a little wonky, and they kind of call attention to themselves in ways that kind of take your eye out of it. We also talk about what not to do in the center. Please don't put a horse in it. Also in the center, don't put stroke around it. Don't put outline around the word Rotary. The 4th image, keep the master brand in its shape. As you can see, they've substituted in a serif font. They've extruded it. They've changed the colors, all sorts of strange treatments. So some design notes, you know, please don't put a lobster in it. And please don't put a fish in it. All real life examples. Nothing, thou shalt not put anything on top of the brand. And you will find, as you look at any corporation, anybody in the public, they will never, ever obscure their own brand. So it didn't take long for this to happen. I hope you're seeing what happened at the top, that they took the new thing and put the old thing in it. Folks are doing that. Please don't do that. Please use it as it is, because this is one thing. It is called the master brand signature, and it is one thing. This, not a thing. This is not a thing. It should never stand alone. It's also not a font. It is actually a custom hand-drawn image. So when you'll see, folks will attempt to replace the word with a font, and I can always tell it just never quite looks right. So if you consider the entire thing to be an image, it is one thing. We always sign our work. This is the Rotary Club of the International Space Station, because they are out of this world. I made that up. But we always sign our work because we are not Rotary International. We are Rotary. I am Rotary District 6400. I am the Rotary Club of Detroit. So we are always representing ourselves. We sign our work. We don't break the alignment by centering our word, because now, again, if the brand is one thing, we've split it up the middle. So nope, please don't do that. Keep the alignment. The alignment goes straight through the middle, and then the club name or whatever the signature is aligned with the Y in Rotary. So yep, this is how we do that. This is the master brand. Please don't fracture it up the middle. So that is my case, hoping that we can all agree that this stuff matters. Kathy, over to you. I think you can demonstrate for them the tools that they can use to achieve the use of the brand.
Definitely. So I'm hoping that all of you have been to the Brand Center. If for some reason you haven't, I encourage you highly to check it out. The easiest way to get there is brandcenter.rotary.org. And when you type that in, this is the first page that you will see. Liz, there we go. And someone asked in the chat a little bit ago, first of all, where you find the guidelines, that voice and visual guide. The best place to do that is to either click on the menu at the top, or it will always be in the center of the screen when you come to the Brand Center. And when you click on that, you will get, I have no idea of the reason why it's doing it. I have selected English here, but you still get Japanese popping up. But when you scroll down to the bottom of the first page, there is only one page. It is down in the right-hand corner. And this is the new voice and visual guide. It was updated in December, and then a couple of things were slightly modified again in March. But it is the 43-page new version. It is not printed anymore. So this is a PDF that you can download and refer to. And we will come back and I'll show you a couple new things that are in that in a little bit, but that is where you find the voice and visual guide. Oh, when you click on it, it shows you right here. You can download it or you can quickly share it to someone in email. I just want to show you one quick little thing though here underneath that. I didn't highlight it, but Rotary just came out last week with some face mask and hand sanitizer guidelines and some COVID related things. So if you haven't seen some of those materials from Rotary, feel free to check those out as well. And that's if you want to print your own face masks and things like that. But if we were to go back to the homepage of the Brand Center, obviously, hopefully most of you have gone to the logos section, which you can either access at the top again or on the right side. And once you click into that, this is where you can get all the master brand logos, the theme logos, the Rotaract Interact logos. But if you click on the center portion here, the template, this is where you can customize your own. And hopefully, like I said, all of you have seen this, but I think there's some things inside here that maybe you haven't played with as much or seen some new additions. So when you click on Create, it will take you to this first page. And we're going to really focus on, I'm going to run through a lot of the different options that are here on the right. I'm not going to pull down the first pull down menu because for the language, most of us here are using the English, but there are options in 8 different languages that you can always select if you do want to do your logo club name in a different language. But if we move on, the next one allows you to select, you had seen Rotary on the page before. This is where you can also alter Rotaract and then also Interact logos as well. You can switch any of those 3. So your local Rotaract and Interact clubs can also have their own customized branding. For the sake of this, we will go back to the Rotary one, but then you'll see in the second next option, next to logo, this is where you saw the normal before. You can also select that simplified logo that Liz was talking about. And so this is what shows when you do the simplified. We're going to go back to the normal one, but the next item that you see is color. And this is something that I think a lot of people don't realize is here. You can do the normal 2-color logo, which we showed you before. You can select this option, which is the 1-color azure blue, which is an approved logo single color. You can select black to get the 1-color black logo. And then you can also select white, which obviously doesn't appear. It is white, but it is there. So if you were trying to reverse out the logo and put it on a dark background, and I'll show you an example of this a little bit later, you can create it. Just because you can't see it, it is there, and you can get a PNG file or any file of that. We'll talk about that in a moment. So we're going to go back to the standard normal version. And now we're going to look at all the alignment options. There are also some new ones in here. Liz talked about making sure that we keep that alignment on the Rotary, with the Rotary name and the wheel all in alignment. And so this is a great way to type in your name of your club or your district and keep those alignments. So one option is that you can place that above the logo. So if you want to say you're the club of Iowa Great Lakes Rotary, Iowa Great Lakes is my Rotary club, I could put it at the, and Liz laughs at that because the Iowa Great Lakes are, she calls them good
Michigan,
lakes.
baby.
She lives on a real Great Lake. Anyway, that's a little private joke. She even gave me a mug that has the Great Lake, the true Great Lakes on it. But anyway.
You got good lakes.
I digress. So Club of Iowa Great Lakes, Rotary, could go on top of it. The next option, if you were to pull that down, is above and below the logo. So I could put Iowa Great Lakes above it, Rotary, and then have club below. That's an acceptable option. The next one, this is new. They've now added the lockups, which is what we call a lockup. It's where it's the line and there's things to the right. So you can actually, if you have a long club name, and I will show you an example of that in a moment, you can actually put your club name now off to the right of it. Just make sure you remember that in its entirety then is your logo. So you want to make sure that you're using that at all times. Then as another option, the next one offers you the opportunity to have a name or something below Rotary. So for instance, I'll show you an example of this in a moment too. For instance, if you were a district-wide or a passport club, you could have the district underneath Rotary, and then you could have what your passport club is or what the name of your club is to the right. Now there are some additional options when you do the lockup, when you have the option to do things on the right, and that is you can actually change the font size. The standard font size that is shown is 72. I upped this one to 90 to show you, and then I also checked the bold box to see that you can bold something on the side. This is another great place that if you have your regular Rotary Club logo, your normal one, with your club on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, you could put something about 100th anniversary or something like that to celebrate a special occasion. So that's an option that you can do as well. Here's an example I used. District 5950 in Minnesota is forming a new club. It is actually chartering here, I believe, next week or this week, within the next week. Anyway, it's a club to end human trafficking. It's quite a long word, but a long name, but it's also somewhat district-wide for them. So this is a way that they can use that logo. We'll come back to some other options for that club in a moment. Once you have your club name and everything in there, you simply click on Save. It will pop up this screen that asks you to name your logo. You can name it because then it stays in your basket on the brand site. So you don't always have to recreate it every time you need it. And so you click OK when you have the name, and this screen pops up. Many of you may have gotten stuck on this screen before. I would love to say that first of all, Rotary International does realize this is an issue. They haven't been able to fix it, or they haven't fixed it, one of the two. So instead, if you don't see all of your download options, you simply need to refresh your browser. Once you refresh your browser, then the download options all appear. So it's a little trick. Wish I had a better explanation, but I don't. So it's a little trick. Basically, you have the option though to download this 3 different ways. For those of you who are graphically savvy, you might be wondering where the EPS file is. The EPS file is a file that many times your printer or embroider person might want so that they can convert it. If you download the PDF, it is a high-res print quality PDF that you can extract the EPS outlines from. So if someone asks for an EPS, the PDF will work in that instance. They are able to open it in Illustrator or a design program and are able to extract or convert it to an EPS. The JPEG then, difference between a JPEG and a PNG file is that the PNG has a transparent background. So when we talked about the white logo, you would want that as a PNG because then it would show the background behind it. If you have a JPEG, it will have a white box around your logo whenever you use it. So that is where you would download those. Here's an example. I use that human trafficking club that is just forming now, and I'm not exactly sure, to be honest with you, which logo they are going with as their primary one. But I just wanted to show you the various ways that these are all brand compliant. The first one in the upper left-hand corner has the two lines below, which is acceptable. That's just District 5950 and human trafficking. You don't always have to use the word club. That is really a preference if you use the word club in your logo or not. The one to the right, if they didn't want to put the district name in, would just be the end human trafficking. The middle one is using that lockup again to utilize, have more space for all the words. And then down at the bottom is where I picked the azure blue so that you could see just the one color. And then I also did the white logo in a PNG and just dropped it on top of a blue box. And that's how you can see that logo turned out. So
Kathy, what I love about these is that even though they're different, it's very clear that they all came from the same set.
Yes.
They all have the same features and variations using a particular set of options.
Yes. Yes, indeed. So then I just want to show you, and then we're going to open it up for questions because we are going to hold these. We want to have these short and sweet so that we can answer a few questions and get you out in time and then come back next week and show you some more exciting things. But in that new voice and visual guide, some of the new things that were added were how we treat Rotary Youth Exchange and RILA. And so here's an example on page 20 of that book of how that lockup can be used with your district for youth exchange and how you can use the different fonts that are acceptable fonts for that. And like I said, you can just type that into the logo creator and make those for your district. And then the same as with the RILA, Rotary Youth Leadership Awards. I know there's a variety of logos out there as well, but we really want to bring these back and make sure that it's tied to Rotary and that people know that those are Rotary programs. And this is a great way to do that. Another great idea for this is if you have a long-standing club event or something that you do every year, you can put it in this lockup as well to make sure that you're tied in with Rotary. Rotary with your club name on the left-hand side and your event name on the right-hand side is a great way to do that.
Yeah, especially if it's a signature event. We have a club that does a chicken barbecue every year, and that's what they're known for.
Yes. So we do have a couple, before we jump to the very end here, there were a couple questions that related to this in the chat. And one of them, was it accurate that we need to pick one of these options and stick with it and not create different versions unless a special occasion or a partnership? And I'll let Liz comment on this as well, but consistency is key. You can use different versions in different scenarios if they fit better. But typically I would say to try to pick one and stick with it because it does help build that consistency and the branding. Liz?
Yeah, I would echo that. Pick the one that seems to suit you the best and use it 90% of the time. And sometimes when you need black and white or when you need to reverse it, the white, use that as needed. But one of the strongest difficulties, and if you remember the slide I showed you with the 10 different Rotary wheels, and that's just a small subset of the ones you can find if you Google it. If we look like an organization that doesn't know what we're doing, that we don't know what our logo is, we don't know what we stand for, it makes us a hard sell. It affects membership. People figure we don't know what we're about, and it affects foundation giving. People don't want to trust us with their money if we don't look like we know what we're doing. So we do want to create a consistent look, and for a club and a community, find the one that that you like the best and use that as much as possible so that people will identify you with that look.
The question was also, is the PDF a vector file? Not all PDFs are vector files. In this instance, the PDFs are made to, are created to make sure that they have the vector or the EPS outlined. What that means is that everything is outlined in there. So for instance, an embroidery company can convert that to an SVG file very easily and embroider it on your garments. And so in this case, the PDFs do equate to a vector file, but that's not the case of PDFs across the world. But in the Brand Center, that is the case.
And this sounds like it's coming from somebody who understands the question. So I'll go a little deeper into the weeds. That when you create a file in Illustrator, a vector file, when you save it as a PDF, one of the choices you have is preserve all vector options. And so these files, when they were created, do preserve all vector options. So if you have the tool to open it, which would be Illustrator or something similar, then you can break through to the EPS vector part of it.
Mm-hmm. I did have a question on how do you access the recording if you want someone else to watch it. If you are on this, and anyone else who registered that may not have logged in tonight, I will be emailing out the recording of this to everyone on this call. So that is one way you'll be able to access. I did get a question if it would be possible to get a copy of this presentation. Liz?
We can do that.
We can do that. I was just making sure part of it's her content, part of it's mine. So I just wanted to make sure. So we can share that as well, because a lot of you are district public image chairs. I know we have a few club ones on this call as well. This is all material that we hope that you will preach to the choir just like we do, and to take this to heart and to really start, Liz and I jokingly will send each other, well, it may be a joke. We send each other images that we see, that we've seen posted on Facebook or somewhere. And then we do the picture of the emoji, like, really, did they really do that to our logo? And we kind of have a file of those so that it's just a reminder that there's a lot of work to be done to get our districts and our clubs still up to speed.
Okay, I'm appreciating the comment from David Christensen, who has discovered the style sheet for the Episcopal Church only just today. So awesome. Yeah, everybody does that. At first, the first time you see one, you think these people have done too much thinking. But in fact, it is what everyone does, that people think hard about the brand. And boy, take advantage of the hard work they did to get it there.
Mm-hmm. So with that, I think we can agree that this does matter. Brand
well,
does
we take
matter.
A vote?
Can we take a vote? Raise your hand if you believe this matters. Seeing a lot of hands, a lot of thumbs up. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Any other questions for us this evening? For either Liz or myself? And if we don't know the answer, we will definitely hunt it down for you. How many of you saw something new this evening that you didn't know was there? A new option? A few people? A few said no, and that's good. That means you've been checking it out, so I appreciate that. Okay. Well, if there are no other questions, I will get the recording of this out, if not yet tonight, tomorrow morning. And we hope to see many of you back next week. Next week's topic, over the course of the next 2 weeks, next week's topic will be about the new public image public service announcement campaign that Rotary has rolled out, and some new things that I can share with you for all of you to use, as well as a few more hidden Brand Center tools. We'll actually show you exactly how to use those. And then on the 29th, we will be doing a session on some of the Learning Center modules that have recently been added to help teach people about our brand and the tools that we have, as well as some easy ideas that you can share with clubs and your district, so that they can learn how to use the new logo. In, I shouldn't say new, it's almost 8 years old actually.
Oh.
I believe it's 7.5. But anyway, how to use the correct logo in some easy ways in your club to do simple and inexpensive branding. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for joining tonight, and we hope to see you back next week. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good week.
Thank you.